Hi everyone. Okay, here is the promise video on deduce. I am going to do a screen share so you can see. Okay, so this is deduce and it costs $12 a month, maybe 15 at the most. I think it's 12. And essentially how it works, you sign up, you enter your name and so forth and so on. And any month that you're actually using the account, you get charged $12. And any month that you're not, you don't get charged, which is really great. So you can use it for your data analysis, but if you ignore your data analysis for a month, that's fine. I really like it. It is fairly user-friendly, and there are a bunch of videos on the Deduce website for you to look at if you like. So once you set everything up, it's actually online. So you upload your all your stuff here by pushing the plus button. So I can push this plus button, import text, and it will just go to my computer, and I can select a piece of data to upload to this project. So let's say I'm going to upload, usually you'll be uploading an interview or something like that, but I'm just going to upload a document. Now, once you've uploaded everything, it'll show up in your in this spot where you have all of your media. So I'm going to open one of these. This is an interview, so you can see how it works. Okay, so when you open your interview, it'll look something like this, and you make an excerpt in your interview by highlighting a piece of text like this and coming down here to this little like quotation thing and pushing the quotation. And so up in here, right here, you can see where now this excerpt that's over here is essentially highlighted over here, okay? So then I can do, okay, so then I can take a code and I can put it in there, and the codes are down here. So they're down on the lower right. So I'm like, well, let's see, what did they say here? Teach grades 1 through 5, da, da, da. Maybe this is context. So you can just drag context up to here, and then that's coded with context. And maybe it's a particular practice, classroom practice. So you can just drag it up there. So this is now coded with those codes. Now, the way you build your code tree, you can just do it as you code. So you use this plus button here, and you can enter a code. I'm just going to put test. So now, in this code tree, if I scroll down, is a code called test, which I can then just apply to this excerpt. Okay? Now, if I don't want to keep this code, I can just delete it. Okay? And the same with this excerpt. So the excerpt I just made, I actually didn't need. So I am going to delete it by pushing the X button here. Okay, so essentially what you do is you end up coding all of your documents. You can see here this entire interview has multiple excerpts, and each excerpt has code. So if I click on this excerpt, for example, you can see up in this corner, the right corner, it has all the codes that were applied to this excerpt. So shift in practice, it was a student-centered practice, it showed assimilation of the kind of thing we were trying to do, and I have actually a numerical code for the level of internalization. So you can actually you can even rate the level at which you see different things, all right? You can also attach descriptors. Let's see where that. So if I wanted, I don't have descriptors set up here, but essentially, if I wanted to to say, okay, well, I'm interviewing teachers and administrators, so I want to actually separate them out in my data. I can enter a descriptor that says this is a teacher, and for the interview of an administrator, the descriptor would say this is an administrator. So you can have any number of descriptors. You can do it by district, by school, by ethnicity if you want. And then that way, when you pull up your data, you can pull up, I only want the excerpts from administrators, or I only want the excerpts from teachers. Okay. Another thing you can do is over here, this is the home screen again, and you can see all these different codes. I can actually, export the excerpts. So for example, I may be interested in the level at which people are implementing the new ideas. So accommodation is a very high level. And I'm going to click on this little excerpt button, and it shows all of the excerpts from all of my interviews that showed that they were highly accommodating. They were really internalizing these new ideas into their practice. And in fact, I can even click on each one and be like, oh, well, what does this one say? So if I click on this one, it should show up as, in a little bit more detail. Oh, it's back here, it looks like. So you can see in a little more detail. In fact, I can even click through them. These are all excerpts that were coded with a particular code. The other thing I can do is I can actually export these excerpts, and I can have everything I want on there, including like the date, like what the media title is, in other words, which interview it's from, descriptors. So if I want to know if it's a teacher or administrator, and I can export it into Excel or Word. I tend to export it into Word myself. So it's an easy way to get all of your excerpts that are about one thing all together. Another thing you can do that's very fun is you can analyze. You can do, for example, you can do code by code co-occurrence. So you can say, okay, well, how often are teachers showing high levels of accommodation? And this code tree is a little bit clunky. Let's see. So here's accommodation. So how often are they showing high levels of accommodation and also having other external resources, right? So that would be two times that an excerpt was coded both of those things. But let's look at some of these high things. Teachers that talked about the importance of planning and doing stewardship also had high levels of accommodation. I think that's very interesting. Teachers that talked about planning and doing stewardship also had high levels of internalization, which is not that surprising, right? So you can see where you have things that are coded multiple things at once. All right. You can do all kinds of things. A code cloud, you can see all of the ways you applied your codes. You can do bubble charts and all kinds of aspects. Okay, this is like just how many times I applied each code, etc. Okay, that is just a brief introduction to deduce, and deduce itself has a lot more videos to give you specifics.